those little moments, like the moment when you put some words on a melody and it feels just perfect, just right. I'm talking about it right now and I have chills. It's like the most magic thing in the world to like invent some things that didn't exist before and that are new and that don't cost anything. It's magic.
From NCPR, welcome to Northwards. People, ideas, and conversations from and about Northern New York, Vermont, and beyond. I'm Mitch Teich.
Support for the Northwards podcast comes from Joe Steiniger and Mary McDonald in support of the Adirondack Foundation, building stronger Adirondack communities.
It is June 9th, at least if you're listening on the day this episode dropped, and if all goes well, I am heading out the door this evening to go to Ottawa to catch a concert featuring a group from the Gaspé Peninsula of Quebec. It is a show by Les Sœurs Boulay, sisters Stephanie and Melanie Boulay, whose fourth album came out late last fall. The album's sound is a little more layered and a little more electronic than those that came before, but still features their distinctive complementary voices that can sound like Simon and Garfunkel were reinvented as two sisters from Quebec. Anyway, the album, called Échappée à la Nuit, or Escape the Night, made a big splash in French-speaking Canada, though maybe not as big a splash as the Taylor Swift album that came out the very same day, but a splash nonetheless, and, how can you compete with Taylor Swift anyway? But the concert at Ottawa's National Arts Centre is a great reason to revisit an interview we did with Stephanie Boulay, the first time she had talked about her music career in English. I reached Stephanie Boulay in Montreal. Merci beaucoup. Thank you so much for joining us.
Merci. Thank you.
So was it your plan to have an album come out on the same morning as Taylor Swift's record?
It wasn't planned, but I think it's a sign because I really love Taylor Swift. She's like my goal in life. When I grow up, I want to be Taylor Swift. So very thrilled when I saw. I was like, it's a sign. So when I woke up, I listened to her album while ours was like going out. So it's very exciting for me. But my sister hates Taylor Swift. It's very weird because we love the same music. But for Taylor Swift, it's like a big issue for us. We always fight over Taylor Swift. So it's very fun.
It would be funny if Taylor Swift woke up this morning and was listening to your new album, though.
My dream. One day.
So this is your fourth album, and for people on this side of the border who might not know your first three, it is both maybe saying more rich and also darker in a lot of ways than your first three. Is the feeling or the nerves or the anticipation on the day it goes out into the world different than with the first three?
It is in some points, but in some points it's the same. Like you never get used to this feeling. I woke up this morning and I wanted to like climb mountains and like it's stressful because on this album we talk about a lot of like very deep subjects. We take less detours, less metaphors to like say things. So it's very scary for us. We don't know how people will react because it talks about people we know and sometimes they don't know we're talking about them. So it's mixed feelings, but in some ways, the fact that we are in the music industry for like 10 years, it makes it like we hope people still want to hear about us. So we're thinking like, will people listen to it? And in some ways, it's very different from what we have done before. So we're like, are they going to get disappointed with it? And are they still following us?
Do you think, though, that you had to have the first three albums, which are more metaphorical and maybe lighter feeling or more philosophical, to be able to do this fourth one?
Of course, we never could have done this kind of things. People wouldn't have reacted well. And when we started, we were like very crafty. We were young and we were playing guitars and like all kinds of crafty sounding instruments.
J'ai pas dit bye, remis les choses à leur place. Pas laissé de mots, juste ma photo en grimace. Ça fait du bien, un peu de vent dans la face. les têtes, mais j'ai trouvé une coupe de piastres pour aller boire des shooters de bar.
Because we were always like more singers, songwriters, so we learned to play those instruments while pursuing our career. So it's crazy. And we were very protective of our sound. We were always playing we were sometimes on stage like just the two of us, and when people were adding, we were like, oh, don't play too loud. And now I think we're freer. Like we know what we're worth. We know that our sound is more about our voices and songwriting than the instruments we put on it. But I know that Connor Sedel, our producer, was kind of stressful about it too. He made his mother and his girlfriend listen to the songs before they got, just to make sure that it wasn't too different from what we have done before.
Il y a des lumières dans le ciel qu'on n'arrive plus à expliquer.
And I think it's just more fun to like explore and try new things, and the like the synth and things like that, we haven't used them before and we don't know anything about them, so it all comes from Connor, but we're learning through it, so it's it's exciting, I think.
Il n'y a ni fin ni commencement. Que vaut la vie, que vaut la vie, quand on la prend comme on la perd. On donne naissance par ennui, on fait des enfants comme point de repère.
You must have had to build up a lot of trust between you and Connor to be able to say, okay, we're going to go with the synth and this feel that we've just never done before.
Oh yes, because those sounds are very subtle, and you have to be very careful for it to be like tasty. And with another person, like you say, the trust is very important. I trust Connor. I trust his taste and his vision, and it's the same for my sister. So we were like, okay, bring us somewhere, and I trust you that it's gonna be at the right place with the right flavor, the right color. Yeah.
And you were talking about your early days. If you go far enough back on YouTube, you can still find videos of you and your sister at the very beginning of your career playing is it the Fremont Festival, where a guy in a bunny suit joins you on stage, and
my God.
and what really comes through is how hard the two of you seem to be trying. When you think about those days, and now you think about today, the day this fourth record comes out, is this the music career you were trying so hard to get?
Yes, in some ways. I think my sister and I disagree with that too, because I had more ambition, I think. I remember when I got 30 years old, I was like, I've done everything I wanted to do in my life. Like all the goals you have to check on your list, I had checked them all. Even like I wanted to sing with Richard Desjardins, it happened. I wanted to sing with Martha Wainwright, it arrived. So I was like, what's next? And I realized when I see girls like Charlotte Cardin, for example, I realized that one part of me wanted to be like playing in stadiums like Taylor Swift. But I know in some ways that I don't have that in me, because like exposure freaks me out. Sometimes when I'm with too many people, I want to go hide in my house and be alone for like weeks. So I think in some ways this is exactly the career we were meant to have. But there's always a part of me that has to grieve about what I could have done if my life was like much different from what it is now. But I think we found like a center. I like to walk in the streets of Montreal and nobody notices me. I have a normal life, and lose that, we will be unhappy.
I guess I wonder if that's kind of represented the first song on the album, Je vais te faire danser. Kind of, does it sort of speak to those contradictions?
Yes. You understood well for an English speaking person.
Je ne te parlerai pas de cet homme inconnu qui sait presque tout de moi, qui du matin au soir me suit, me traque et me voit. Mon monstre est pire que ceux dans les histoires.
There's a lot of issues that we have about image, for instance, like people in the show business, everybody's pretty, everybody's thin, everybody's like perfect all the time. We always felt like we didn't fit in those standards.
Disent les miroirs. Mais je vais te faire danser, rien que te faire danser. Je vais t'aider à penser ce qui ne va pas. Je vais te faire danser, rien que te faire danser. Si t'arrives à plus penser, est-ce que tu m'aimeras?
Even if we do in some ways, but I think everyone thinks they don't fit because it's so like precise and very. So yeah, it's wanting to be out there, but being scared of what people perceive of you. And we made mistakes in our careers. We said things we shouldn't have said. We did things we shouldn't have done. So it's like, what's the point? What's your place? Do we still want to be in those in this show business? Why are we creating songs? Is it to be seen, to be heard? Is it to be admired, or is it just to create something that's beautiful and didn't exist before? So it's like all those questions. They came after there was another wave of Me Too, like 2 years ago in Quebec. It was devastating for every one of us. We lost our label. We lost everyone who worked with us since the beginning. So we had to create another team, new people to trust. So it was born from the state of like, I don't want to do this anymore, but I still want to. So how can I still make music without being swallowed in those worlds that are ugly and dark? Yeah.
Do you feel like, have you worked out the answer to that question? Why do I do this? Why is this the thing that I do for the world?
Yes, it's those little moments, like the moment when you put some words on a melody and it feels just perfect, just right. I'm talking about it right now and I have chills. It's like the most magic thing in the world to like invent some things that didn't exist before and that are new and that don't cost anything. Like it's magic. And I know for my sister it's the same. Like we look at each other and we say like, oh my God, this is it.
Comme l'eau qui se dépose si on lui offre un abri, qui même si elle se pose ne perd pas sa folie. Quand ma tête se repose dans les toiles de mon lit, je soigne et j'arrose ce qui me garde en vie. Coule, coule ma colère.
And second part, studio, like being with friends, with gear and like time and good coffee and just chatting about life and music and just creating something, recording something. And again, when it feels right, it's still magic. So this is the beginning and but it's kind of fun too to like go in galas and wear gowns and hair and makeup. And it's nice. I cannot lie, but to be like équilibré, I don't know what's the word in English, but to be well in the situation, you have to, I think, care more about the creation and crafty parts than the glamour parts. Yeah.
Yeah. You gave me chills too, by the way. You just put it so well, and your English is much better than you think it is.
You? I listen to a lot of English TV. So.
My daughter, who is studying language and linguistics in college, pointed out your use of gender-neutral language, if that's how you would describe it, in some of your social media posts. You're also a published author. You're an anti-violence activist and at least a part-time farmer and beekeeper, if I understand right. Where do you see these other parts of your life that you share as a force for change in the world?
I think that I understand your question. What I would say is that I feel very lucky because being a successful musician, I have a lot of time and a lot of resources that give me like the energy to put in those things. Like if I had no time and I had to work like 80 hours a week, I wouldn't have time to do beekeeping and to read books and to write books, because writing books, it's supposed to be a job, but it's a hobby because it doesn't pay well enough. So I have a great freedom that comes with my position, I guess, in society. And I'm very, I have so much gratitude, and I'm trying to never forget that I'm privileged to have this position and not take it for granted, and using it in the best way I could, even if sometimes I don't. Like, I don't pretend I use it well. I'm very selfish. There's so many things I don't do that I should do, but I'm trying to be like just, and I have resources to do therapy even. Like some people don't. Some people are in on waiting lists for like 2 years. So I'm very lucky. Yeah,
Is writing music also a form of therapy for you?
of course. And before, I think you said the word activist, and I like jumped a little bit because I don't perceive myself as so. But lately, we have been very vocal on social media and like fighting against and for things. And we got a lot of love from it and a lot of hate too. And at some point, we had to distance ourselves from these platforms. Like there's a song on the album, Surtout
Yeah.
Surtout, that says, just don't do that. And we're talking to to us, to ourselves.
Chante une chanson de ton enfance, brûle un lampion pour la chance. Sur un pont lance un sou blanc, éclate de rire ou fait un semblant. Plante un noyau dans la terre, arrose-le, attends, espère, prends un taxi.
We lost so much energy and time like just fighting with people on social media, and at one point we said to each other, let's just put this in songs instead. Like maybe it will be more helpful and bring us less pain, because it's very painful sometimes to read like everybody hating you on the internet because you said something that disappointed them.
At the same time, I mean, the song "Tu cherchais tes souliers" is so
Yeah.
painful to listen to. I can't even imagine what it must be like to sing.
Yes, it's my sister who sings it, and sometimes I'm happy I don't have to, because yeah, it's always this like we have to say those things, we have to sing those things, but it's very painful. There was a song on the last album. I talked about a toxic relationship, very painful toxic relationship, and I was in studio and I was crying while singing it, and I decided I will not play it again, not on TV, not on radio, not on stage, because I didn't want to revisit those parts. But for Cherche tes souliers, we managed a way to be able to sing it and to talk to people around us to explain why we did this. And I hope it's not that painful for people around us who are concerned by this song. And you have to be careful because you don't want to expose people that don't want to be exposed and that didn't choose to be exposed. So I think maybe we shouldn't have put this song on the record. And I remember the song Pas sa mère, 2 days before we sent the album like to go be pressed. I told my sister, we're removing the song from the album. I don't want to put it out anymore. Like I don't want to live with the consequences of talking about this subject. And my sister was like, okay, it's up to you, but I think it's important that it goes out. So it's very scary.
Elle te ressemble, elle a la même voix. Et quand elle tremble, c'est toi qu'elle cherche dans le noir. Je ne
And Pas sa mère is this is about a relationship as a stepmother. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, totally. Like I'm a stepmother of two girls. My boyfriend has two daughters, and when I arrived in this situation, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to like. It's like entering a life that you didn't choose. That it's a family that's not yours. So you have to be there and not be there too much.
Elle sait que tu ne serais pas d'accord. Je ne suis pas sa mère, mais elle est ma fille. Autant quand son cœur se serre que quand ses yeux brillent.
And like I was trying to navigate this situation, and I was talking to other girls or other women around me that were in the same situation, and we're like, nobody told us what to do. There's no like we were like talking about this in secret, and I was like, it doesn't have to be a secret anymore. Like people are going through this, and they need to feel that they're not alone. So this is why I put it finally.
Yeah, it struck me listening to that, and that was one of the songs as an English and moderate French speaker, I thought I understood the best, and it really struck me that this is not a story we hear represented in music very often.
It's true. I if you have one idea of another song or another, but I didn't find any.
So at this point, we talked about this at the very beginning. But I guess the question I have is, having lived with these songs in the studio and the writing process and thinking about them and how they might be received, is there a sense of relief or happiness now that the record is actually out there?
Yeah. More happiness and excitement than relief, because I think the apprehension is more there than the relief, because we hope people will like it. We always want, like, we do this to be loved. I think most people do. I know I do, not everybody, but there's kind of a void in ourselves that has to be filled with love. And I know it's not real love, and we have to be careful. Like we've seen what it's done with Marilyn Monroe, for example. You have to be careful about this and be surrounded by people who know you for real and love you for real. But we always do this like for people to listen to it, and we always hope for the best. Yeah.
Well, Stephanie Boulay, thank you so much. It was such a delight to talk with you, and congratulations on the new album.
Thank you for taking the time. It was a pleasure.
Stephanie Boulay, along with her sister Melanie, make up Les Sœurs Boulay. Their fourth album is called Échappée à la nuit, Escape the Night. They are playing a show in Ottawa on the day this episode drops, June 9th, but you can find a link to their music and their full tour schedule at ncpr.org/northwards. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Northwards. I'm Mitch Tyke. I hope you enjoyed our interview, and you can catch new content every Friday right here or wherever you get your podcasts. Find out more about Northwards and NCPR on our mobile app or at our website, ncpr.org. And while you're there, make a donation to support everything you hear on North Country Public Radio.
Northwards is an NCPR podcast production. The show is written, edited, and produced by Mitch Tyke with digital production supervision by me, Ethan Shanty. Caitlin Kelly handles our social media, Bill Hanel is our digital director, and Doyle Dean is our production manager. Music is by the Wickmore Jazz Trio of Plattsburgh. To support this show and find more podcasts, visit ncpr.org. This is NCPR, North Country Public Radio.